last fall, and we talked with the folks at the Erie Wildlife Refuge. And I guess years ago, when like the National Forest was first, this area was known, I guess, worldwide for the tanning of leather, and
Right.
so a lot of the trees were taken down for whatever chemical was in the bark of the tree.
Right. I'm not sure what it might be. I'm not sure what that might be. I use a different chemical now. It's, you know, it's more modern. But when I do the bigger hides, like if I were to do a 6 or 8 foot bear, you know, I might use the bath or a container, you know, to completely submerge that animal. It's a different chemical that I use for that in the pickling solution for tanning. The smaller hides and the deer and stuff, I use a commercial tanner that I purchased. The reason I use it is time. I can, what typically takes 24 to 48 hours to pickle and preserve a hide and tan it, for a wet tan, something you're going to do for example, a deer, I can do in 2.5 hours.
Okay.
So to me, as the taxidermist that needs, you know, turnaround and you know, getting that animal done, tan, processed, it really is state of the art. I mean, but yeah, it's a totally different chemical that I use for that, and it's pressurized. And what it does is that pressure forces that chemical into the hide, which speeds up that process. Rather than when you soak it, it has to slowly absorb that chemical to preserve. This is pretty much just speeding it, you know, the whole process.
Kind of like making your jerky. You can use that, I forget what it's called.
The dehydrator.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so as host of the show, I reserve the right to ask one dumb question. So let me throw you the dumb question here. Okay, I shot the deer, and it's, you know, an 8-pointer or whatever, and somebody comes over. You know, you'll probably get a better one in another time. Maybe you don't want to get that one. Talk me through that. How am I going to make up my mind if this is the one I want to bring to you?
You know, it's all you. You know, if that's an animal that you want to preserve, and that's how you want to preserve it, is a shoulder mount. It's certainly in the individual and what that hunt meant to them. You know, if that hunt meant a great deal to you, then I say sure, get it mounted. It is an expense, you know, so a lot of people, you know, they kick it around. I get animals that have been in the freezer for a year. And they call me up and they say, I just really didn't know if I wanted to get it mounted. You know, I didn't know if I'd get a bigger one, you know. Well, I didn't this year, so I want to pull that out of the freezer and get it mounted.
So last year's was waiting to see if we got a better one this year? Okay.
Waiting to see. And I don't recommend that you know, if it's properly caped in the head and the horns and everything are on there and it's double bagged, you freeze it, but no more than a year. You know, you start to get freezer burn in the ears and stuff like that. So I don't recommend that you keep them more than a year, but you certainly can do that. If you want to wait and decide the next year, hey, am I going to do better this year, or whatever the case may be. But don't let your friends dictate what you want to do, because it's your memory, you know, and it's you want that animal to be representing your hunt and you know how you want it to be. So, yeah.
Had that conversation the first time I got it years and years and years ago. The first time I got a buck, and you'll get a better one, you know. And I did, you know.
Right.
And they were right. I did, but yeah, I assume I'm not the only one that had that conversation with the guys on the hunt.
You've heard this saying, and I'm an outfitter. I outfit for bear and fishing trips in Quebec, and I have a lot of clients that come up, and they're like not familiar with what they're looking at as far as size or something. Or if I take somebody deer hunting, you know, how do I judge them in the field and that? It's just always been said, and you've heard it, don't pass up today what you'll be willing to shoot tomorrow or next week. So if you're on a 3 or 4 day hunt and, you know, a 120 class whitetail walks in, you've never got a 120 class whitetail, but they're telling you about all these huge whitetails in the 150s. If you're willing to shoot that animal on the last day, probably should take it that day. Because it doesn't, and I found out with my clients, I tell them, don't, you know, if you want a bear and you don't want to pass something up that might not, you know, show up on the last day. So, yeah, it's kind of a good rule of thumb, I think. And don't let the outside factor of the friends try and intimidate you into not doing something. But no, if it's something that you want to preserve and it means something to you, I say get it mounted, or, you know, do the European mount or something like that.
Sure.
It's your call.
Well, Mike, I enjoyed our talk. This was great.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for telling us about your business, and thanks for showing some of the inside secrets here.
Right. I hope I was informative. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to Crawford County Outdoors and especially Armstrong for helping us get the word out there. Helping us taxidermists by bringing that specimen to us in good condition is key.
Well, we've got a talk coming up here, Pheasants Forever. So we'll be right back with that. Well, welcome back to Ed Moss. Ed, we met up at the Antlers and Anglers show last fall, and you suggested maybe we get together and talk about taxidermy and talk a little bit more in detail about Pheasants Forever. So thank you for the idea for the show today here. Let's assume people didn't see that show last fall, and so tell us what Pheasants Forever is. Like this, I never heard of it before.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Dwayne. I've been excited about being here talking with you. Pheasants Forever is a national habitat organization. It came to be in 1982. And at the time, it was developed for the initial purpose of creating, preserving habitat. So pheasants, quail, grouse, all upland birds and animals actually could benefit by it. And it was put together by a group of obviously hunting enthusiasts that wanted to preserve the opportunity to hunt, not only for themselves, but for their grandchildren and so on and so forth. There were a lot of landowners, a lot of farmers, a lot of conservationists, a lot of biologists involved in the whole concept of it. So that's where Pheasants Forever came from. And like I say, it is a national organization with like 750 chapters all across the U.S. and Canada, about 140,000 members.
So I see your name on your shirt there that says you're the president of Chapter 728. Is that this area? Is that this Northwest Pennsylvania
Yes,
area?
I am the president of Chapter 728. That's the Northwest Pennsylvania chapter.
Okay.
And the Northwest Pennsylvania chapter actually started out in the Warren County area. It was a Warren County chapter back in 2003.
Okay.
At that time, Warren County, a bunch of folks down there decided that they wanted to get involved. They wanted to start working with some habitat. They wanted to see more wild pheasants rather than the pen-raised pheasants that the Game Commission puts out every year, which is a good program, but obviously hunting wild pheasants is a lot different than hunting the pen-raised pheasants. And we wanted to preserve that idea. So it came to be, the chapter was formed, and I believe at that time, by the second year of their existence, they were up to about 63 members.
Okay.
And they were getting a few of those members coming from the Erie County area and the Crawford County area. Well, it was decided at that time, in order to make that chapter grow, that it had to join with the other two counties. So then at that point, it moved to the Northwest Pennsylvania chapter, and
Okay.
it changed its number to Chapter 728.
So one of my favorite fall activities, period, but one of my favorite hunting activities is going pheasant hunting. Love to get out there and work with a dog, and usually it's not too hard to get some friends rounded up that they like to go to, and kind of fun to take something home that you can have for dinner the next day and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Talk about that for a sec. Why pheasant? Why not grouse? Why not turkey? Why not? That happens to be my favorite, but I suppose we see it the same way, I guess.
Well, that's very interesting because, why pheasants? I don't know if I can answer that for you. Why pheasants? Other than they are an interesting bird. Unlike grouse. Grouse will set tight, and grouse are more of a woodland bird where you're hunting into the woods itself. Pheasants are something that typically will nest in not only in the fields, but hedgerows, in the pine areas, and so on and so forth. So you can use your dog and you can cover a wide range, and you can have your buddies work together with you. They're a bigger bird, much more interesting, much more, especially when they flush. So possibly that's why that a lot of us are more intrigued with the pheasants rather than the grouse. Although we do grouse hunt. I mean, bird hunting is fun, no matter how you look at it and no matter what bird it is. It's fun.
One of my favorite things in my life, if I had to pick, would be to get a kid out there for the first time on a pheasant hunt with a good dog and, with some safety training and all that kind of stuff. But when that bird flushes for the first time, and if you get a rooster and it's cackling away, sometimes it scares a kid half,
Yes, it does.
half out of his skin there.
Yes, it does.
But that's a good thing. Now, Pheasants Forever also helps kids, to get some chances to get out there with the hunts. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Yes, it does. And our chapter, out of all the chapters, our chapter is one of the more youth-oriented chapter. We do a lot of work with the youth around the Tri-County area, and we even have kids that we won't turn them down. And they're coming from bordering Ohio and bordering New York. They're coming in and to participate in our youth hunts. We started our youth hunts back in 2007, really not knowing what to do, how to do it, other than that we wanted to get these kids out there. We wanted to get them involved in pheasant hunting. And the best way to do that is to bring them out together and get birds to come up in front of them. If you can get that to happen and you can get their interest in it, then they're going to become pheasant hunters and they're going to continue that legacy. So we started the first hunt in 2007. We only had 11 kids, and we actually had the hunt in Warren County, in Sugar Grove on the AmVets property. And like I said, we had 11 kids. We had like 7 volunteers and 4 dogs, and everyone showed up that day. It was raining. It was a terrible day for hunting, but the kids were so interested in it and they were so involved in it, and they went out and they had such a good time. So we immediately got together for the following year, and we had to decide, how can we make this better? These kids really enjoyed it. So I
bet you if you asked any one of those kids who are now probably 20 or whatever, that was probably something that they'll never forget that day.
Absolutely. It's something that they'll never forget. And the interesting thing about it is when we talk about getting kids involved and bringing them up through, it's our greatest asset, number one, especially for an organization like Pheasants Forever or any organization like that. You have to get the kids involved. We're not going to be here forever. So we have to get them interested, get them involved to carry our legacy on. So the interesting thing about that is we're taking kids then at 12 years old, and now we're seeing those kids as young adults that are helping us, and they're helping with the younger kids. And that's basically what it's all about. So yes, so as we progressed and learned more about how to do these hunts and where to have these hunts, now, as of last year in the fall, we had hunts on 2 consecutive Saturdays in October. We had a total of 53 kids participate. And unfortunately, and we didn't like to do it, but we had to have kids on the waiting list that didn't really get the opportunity to come out to participate in the hunt. And basically what it boils down to, if you have to turn kids away, it's property, volunteers, but the biggest problem is getting enough dogs. You know, to have the dog owners come out, handle the dogs, and to, you know, hunt with the kids. But we've come to the point where we've done this so much and we've gotten better and better, and through fundraising throughout the years, now we have our own trailer. And we have the trailer fully stocked with youth model shotguns. We have a remote controlled clay target thrower. Okay. So when the kids come out, they come out early enough for the hunt. We give all the kids an opportunity to shoot a few clay targets to kind of get warmed up.
Get used to the gun, get used to seeing something flying and shooting at something moving rather than something standing still and all that stuff.
And some of these kids that come out, believe it or not only do they not have a shotgun, they don't even have a pair of hunting boots.
Yeah.
And they show up in sneakers and blue jeans. They do know ahead of time about the requirement for the blaze orange and all the safety features, because one of the requirements to participate in the hunt is they don't actually have to have a Pennsylvania hunting license, but they do have to complete the hunter-trapper education course. Okay. So they do know about the safety. However, we go over all the safeties of wing shooting and hunting before they go out in the field. In our trailer, we also have a propane grill. These kids come out, they go out, they shoot their clay targets, they go out in the field, they hunt pheasants behind well-trained dogs and great mentors, and then they come back and we give them lunch, we give them something to drink. We have parents and volunteers that come up, show up with cookies and donuts. We supply all the hot dogs and everything like that. The trailer's well equipped. We even have a portable swimming pool in it that we fill up with water if it's a hot day, so the dogs can cool themselves off quite some bit. And yeah, we had 45. Like I said, we had 53 kids. We had 45 parents show up to help out. We had 17 volunteers from the chapter, and I think last year we had a total of 12 different dogs to show up. And we take the kids out. The birds are all stalked the day before. So when these kids take to the field for their hunt, it's a real hunting situation.
Sure.
So they really get to experience that. And the excitement of just a bird coming up and just the shooting is priceless.
So let me join you in making a pitch for something. I've volunteered a few times with a hunt here in Crawford County, and have a young dog now. And what better what better training, what better experience for the dog a few weeks before the regular season starts, and to get out there with real birds and people shooting, and my safety tip to the kids was, if you don't see sky, then don't shoot.
Right, absolutely.
If that bird for whatever reason can't get off the ground, okay, we're not going to shoot at that one.
Right.
If you see blue sky, you're not going to shoot anybody. It's going to be safe. And don't turn the safety off, and keep your finger away from that trigger until you're getting up there to the sky, right? So.
And one of the biggest key there, the biggest safety feature there is especially when you're taking kids out hunting. Obviously, you've got dogs out in front, but the biggest thing that we stress is for all the parents that want to go along in the field with the kids, and the volunteers, the mentors that are helping with the kids. We have to be in the back. The kids are up front. We're in the back. At no time are we ever in front of the kids. It's probably one of the biggest safety features ever, and we've been very, very fortunate. We've had a lot of good luck. Kids. One of the first things you worry about, well, these kids, a lot of them are 12 years old. They've never even handled a shotgun before. They're going to go out in the field, and boy, that just doesn't sound good. Believe it or not, they're there because they want to be there. They got up early on a Saturday morning, no matter what the weather was, to show up to do this. It was their idea to do it.
Sure.
So they certainly are listen to you, and we have the safety talks before we got in the field, and it certainly pays off. They do understand the importance of the safety. They are carrying a gun, a loaded gun.
Well, let me jump in on something you said a little bit ago. Okay, so you go deer hunting, and maybe you got all season you're out there hunting, a number of days, and maybe you get 10 seconds to get your shot off, at one deer.
Right.
And if you happen to be scratching your nose at that particular point in time, and you're not ready and whatever, pheasant season, okay, you may see 20, 30, 50 birds over the course of the season,
Right.
and chances are you're going to get a couple. You're going to get some anyways, or at least you're going to get a good chance at some over that. You work with a good dog, you're definitely going to get a chance at some. So
Yes.
Not that you have to take something home every time or whatever, but I think your chances are good to have a chance anyways to take something home on a pheasant hunt, and have something for dinner. And my wife would joke with one of my kids, and it's like, oh, you guys are so late, and my daughter said, well, we're feeding the family, so we can't bring in a couple pheasants, So yeah, she must have picked that up for me, I guess, because that's probably was my excuse too for why I was late so many other times. So. What a better thing for a kid to get them out there and have them a chance for success. Their first day. Their first time out.
Yes.
And so yeah, I'm with you. Take a kid. Take a kid.
Right.
Preserve the sport for the next 100 years.
And just to elaborate on your comment there about you may only get that one 10-second chance, and pheasant hunting may be a little bit different. You may get a couple chances, which is why we call it hunting. And we do stress this to the kids. And when we get these kids together and we have a talk to them before we go out in the field, we tell the kids, listen, nobody can guarantee that you're going to take a bird home with you. But one thing we will guarantee is that you're going to have a good time. So that's basically what it's all about. Yes, the excitement of getting that opportunity to shoot is quite an excitement itself. The actual opportunity of actually landing that bird is, like I said before, it's priceless. And when you see that kid hold that bird up, and it's their first one, it's priceless.
Well, the other thing too, I'm thinking of now grandma and grandpa and uncle and aunt and mom and dad. When it comes to be birthday time and Christmas time, if your kid's interested in hunting, man, there's lots of stuff that you don't have to work too hard to find something that they're going to need some boots, they're going to need some chaps or hunting pants, they're going to need a hunting coat. They might need that shotgun that we talked about before, et cetera, et cetera. So. Well, Ed, how do you afford to do all this kind of stuff? How does that happen within the Pheasants Forever organization?
Well, that's a real good question. How do we afford to do it? It basically is fundraising. And when these kids come out for any of our events, whether it's a junior hunt, whether it's a shooting event, whether it's just shooting the 22s that we have for them, plinking, or we put on different seminars throughout the year, they never pay a dime. So one of the interesting things, and probably the best thing about Pheasants Forever as an organization, is as a local chapter, every penny that's raised within your chapter stays in your chapter. Basically, the only fees that has to be turned into national headquarters, the only thing they require are membership fees themselves.
Okay.
But money that we raise on gun raffles, our banquets, sponsorship, donors, and we've been very fortunate. We've got some great donors. For example, when we purchased our trailer, we decided that, well, these hunts are getting bigger and bigger. We have to get equipment. We have to get it to the field. So we looked around for the trailer that would fit our size. We purchased a trailer. So paying for this trailer came in the way of sponsorship.
Okay.
So we've contacted business owners, individuals, and said, hey, we have this trailer in the field. It goes with us wherever we go.
Pretty cool to have a logo on the side
Would
there.
you
That's
like your
awesome.
logo on the side of our trailer?
I love that idea.
So that was our idea of being able to afford the trailer. That's how that happened.
And if I'm a business out there that's maybe in some sort of the end of the outdoors game, hey, what better thing than that folks are interested, and there's going to be a lot of mom and dad and grandma and grandpa there looking for something to get to. Oh, there's a place I can get that shotgun for Junior. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as far as a lot of our gear and our equipment goes, especially our guns, an organization called Midway USA, they provide grants for nonprofit organizations such as Pheasants Forever. So we can apply for those grants. There are certain stipulations that we have to meet. First, we have to show that, yes, we are doing what we say we're doing with these kids. So they can make that happen with this. And that's how we, there's paperwork involved in it. But it does happen. But we do, all of the money to support these, it is raised locally and it stays locally.
So if I want to, maybe there's an event coming up or whatever, can I go to a website and get the details of that and get signed up for it? And
Absolutely.
would that be the best way to keep on top of what the most current event
That
coming
definitely
up is?
would be the best way to keep on top of it. You can join Pheasants Forever at any time during the year. You can go to Pheasants Forever website.
And it's Pheasant Forever.
It's pheasantsforever.org.
.org. Okay.
Okay, that takes you right to the national headquarters. And through there, you can sign up. You can get back into their membership page and sign up to the membership. Once you sign up for the membership, it's demographic. They take your zip code and they assign you to our chapter. Once you're assigned to our chapter, I, as the president, get the member list once a year. And then it's up to me now to contact via mail, email, or phone calls all of these members to inform them of what's going on. We have monthly meetings, most generally the third Wednesday of every month, and we like to hold those meetings in different areas. We move around to make it convenient for a lot of members. Sometimes we'll have a meeting in Warren County. Sometimes it'll be in Corey. Sometimes it'll be in Erie. So we move that around. And every year we have our annual membership banquet. It's usually in the spring, and you can keep abreast of that for our local chapter at nwpapf.org.
PF Pheasants Forever.
Right, it stands for Northwest Pennsylvania Pheasants Forever.
PF.org.
.org.
There you go. Okay.
And then on there you can find all the information about our upcoming banquet. You can find that information typically on youth hunts.
There you go.
We also sponsor at least once a year a hunter-trapper education course for the kids.
Very good. Very good.
So you can find that information. You can find out when our meetings are. Just about whatever you want to find. My contact information is on there. All of our officers, our treasurer, our youth coordinator, our habitat coordinator, all that information is on there as far as how to contact them.
And if we convinced any dog owners out there to get out there and help with this youth hunt, maybe they contact you the same way?
Absolutely.
Good.
We're always looking for dogs.
I'm sure we convinced them all out there today as we were talking about
We
that.
convinced them all. I tell you, the dogs have just as much fun in the fields as we do as mentors and the kids do. They have just as much fun. And it's a great time for the dogs. It's just pre-season for the regular pheasant season, so it kind of gets your dogs in tune too. But the one thing we do stress when we talk to the dog owners so that they want to come out and they want to participate in the youth hunt is that it's not the event to train a dog, and let's not get confused with that. Yes, we do want your dog, but we want a well-trained dog. We're working with kids that it's the first time they're out there, and it's not a time to be trying to discipline a dog. You know, we have to concentrate on
Good
the
point.
kids.
It's practice for the dog. I mean, in my case,
Oh, absolutely.
we've been through all the we've been through all the basic training now. So the more practice, the better for the younger dog. And I say young, he's going to be 3 this year. So
Right.
still, the more work he gets, the better. That dog's got so much energy, drives me crazy some days. But well, Ed, we're running low on time here, but thanks very much for being with us and for what you're doing. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. Can I ask you for one more? If I own a piece of property and I want to make it better for habitat-wise, I want to make it better for.
Sure.
Is there someone that can coach me through that? Is there a resource I could go to find some tips?
Yes, that's a good question because there are a lot of resources for protecting your property, enhancing your property, or preserving what you already have on your property, especially if you're a farmer and you've just reached the age where I just can't do it anymore. However, I don't want my fields, I don't want my property just to go to waste, so I want to turn it into something useful. There's programs, there's government-funded programs, both through the federal government and the state government. There's programs called CREP, there's programs called WIPRA. You can contact your local farm agency office and they'll get you started. They'll come out, they'll take a look at your property, they'll assess your property. If you want to turn it into CREP,
CREP.
CREP, which is
Conservation.
Crop Replacement Enhancement
Okay.
Program.
Okay.
They will guide you through that. They'll get the paperwork started for you. They'll get you approved for it. Once they get you approved for the funding for it, then it's up to that landowner. They'll be provided with a list of contractors that can do that work for you. And we are one of the contractors that can do that work for you. We have professional land management officers and our habitat officers. We can go out. We can do the burning of the grasses. And the one stipulation with CREP projects is that all the planting has to be done with the no-till drill.
There you go.
So we're not
Okay.
disturbing the soil. So there are a lot of programs like that, and those are very important for the whole purpose of Pheasants Forever, because the purpose of Pheasants Forever is to increase and enhance the opportunity for wild birds to survive and reproduce.
Well, Ed, that's a great update. We appreciate you being with us on Crawford County Outdoors. Also, thanks to Mike Moss from Woods and Wall Taxidermy here for the great displays and for the great talk about taxidermy. Especially thanks to the folks at home for joining us on Crawford County Outdoors, and we'll talk to you next time.